The man takes his daughter to swim for the first time, but the woman he once loved starts calling for help nearby. The man ignores his daughter's request, leaving her behind to rush to the side of the woman he once loved. At this moment, the daughter of the woman he once loved starts pretending to be sick, claiming her heart feels uncomfortable. Upon hearing this, the man immediately carries the woman's daughter to the hospital, completely ignoring his own daughter who is still calling for him in the deep water area. Help! Help! The man pretends not to hear and still leaves with the daughter of the woman he once loved. After the man leaves, the daughter uses all her strength to call her mother. The mother happily tells her daughter, "I bought chicken wings, and I'll make your favorite cola chicken wings tonight." But on the other end of the line, only a faint voice comes through, "Mom, help!" As soon as she finished speaking, the daughter sank into the pool and gradually became motionless. The woman kept calling for her daughter, but there was no response for a long time. At this moment, the woman realized something had happened to her daughter and hurriedly called her husband. But he was at the hospital with the woman he once loved and her daughter, completely unaware of the calls from his wife. The woman hurried back home to ask her mother-in-law where her daughter had gone, suspecting something had happened to her. The mother-in-law responded impatiently, "What could possibly happen when my son is with her? Instead of being suspicious here, why don't you think about how to give our family a big healthy boy? What use is that worthless girl outside?" At this moment, the mother-in-law received a call from the White Moonlight and learned that they were at the hospital, so she immediately wanted to rush over. Seeing her mother-in-law about to leave, the woman quickly knelt on the ground, begging her mother-in-law to tell her where her child was. The mother-in-law pushed her away and scolded, "Is a worthless girl really that precious? Today I'm going to cure you of this problem. My son took her swimming. If you have the ability, go search each place one by one." After hearing this, the woman immediately ran outside, heading to the swimming pool her daughter often visited. But when she arrived, what she saw was her daughter's cold, lifeless body. Heartbroken, the woman crawled to the body, calling out her daughter's name, hoping she would open her eyes and look. The people nearby told the woman that when they found the child, she was already gone, but the woman refused to believe that her daughter was no longer alive. She loudly told everyone to quickly call for an ambulance, then held her unconscious daughter and cried bitterly. When her daughter was taken to the hospital, the doctor informed her that because the child had been underwater for too long, she could not be saved, leaving only a death certificate. But when the woman was holding the certificate and crying uncontrollably, she saw her mother-in-law and husband accompanying the White Moonlight mother and daughter in the hospital corridor. The woman rushed over, grabbed her husband's collar, and questioned him about why he was there. "Why did you leave her to die alone?" The husband pushed the woman away, stepping on the certificate, and told her not to make a scene. "Just a moment ago, when I was using it, she had a heart attack, so I brought them to the hospital." Only then did the woman realize that her husband was the one responsible for their daughter's death. Their daughter was only 6 years old. She announced the news of their daughter's passing, interrupted by her mother-in-law, scolding her for lacking manners. At this moment, the woman was in despair and angrily accused her husband of neglecting their daughter and insisting on being a stepfather to another child. The White Moonlight is eager to seduce him, while the mother-in-law ignores her granddaughter to care for another child. The husband holds the woman's hand and promises to apologize to their daughter later. The woman shakes off her husband's hand. "Apologize? You?" Unexpectedly, this angered the mother-in-law, who said the daughter was just in the water a little longer. "I tell you, it would be better if she died." The woman clenches her fist and slaps the mother-in-law across the face. The mother-in-law is furious and complains to her son. "Did you see that? She actually dared to hit me. Hurry up and divorce her." The silent White Moonlight also joined in, saying it was all her fault, and offered a card worth 200,000 as a token for the child. The woman threw the card on the ground. "You think you can buy my child for 200,000? You're taking yourself too seriously." The mother-in-law stepped in to defend the White Moonlight. "Don't waste your money. Giving it to a dog would be better than giving it to him." The woman angrily retorted to the White Moonlight and her husband. "You're just a pair of shameless people. You'll definitely get your comeuppance." Unexpectedly, the husband suddenly slapped the woman. "Have you had enough of this? I've explained it to you many times already." The woman, having reached her limit of disappointment, immediately asked her husband for a divorce. The mother-in-law mocked the woman. "Someone like you, without my son, you wouldn't even have a meal to eat. If you have the guts, just get out of my son's house." At this moment, the White Moonlight's daughter stood up and said that the woman and her child were both bad and should die together. The woman never expected such venomous words to come from a child. The White Moonlight stepped in to defend her daughter. "It's just a child's innocent words. What do kids know about these things?" The woman immediately slapped the White Moonlight and also slapped her husband, who was standing nearby. The husband didn't want to deal with the woman, so he left with them, leaving the woman alone, collapsed on the ground, clutching a death notice and crying bitterly. The woman called her father, and only then did she realize that she was wrong. If she hadn't insisted on marrying her husband back then, she wouldn't have lost her child now. A few days later, the woman attended her child's funeral, overwhelmed with grief. Meanwhile, her husband was in the car with the white moonlight, happily celebrating his child's birthday. The two parties met on the road. The white moonlight saw a funeral procession on the opposite side and felt it was bad luck, with paper money being thrown onto the car, so she got out to argue. The husband also got out, not expecting that the person opposite was his wife. The woman boldly declared, "Traditionally, when a wedding meets a funeral, the wedding makes way. If you want us to make way, you must first kneel and kowtow for 3 hours." The father of the woman standing by couldn't stand it anymore. His own child's body was not yet cold, and she was celebrating someone else's child's birthday. The husband saw the coffin behind, and still didn't know that the person lying inside was his own child. The white moonlight switched to an acting mode, stating that it was all her fault, and that if you want to hit or scold her, she would have no complaints. The woman was tired of her performance and told her to stop acting like a white lotus. "I can see through your dirty thoughts better than anyone." The husband stepped in to defend his idealized love, accusing the woman of being unreasonable, and said that the gift for their daughter had already been bought and he would apologize to the child tonight. The woman didn't care for his apology and told them to leave quickly or she would smash their car. The husband had no choice but to leave with his idealized love. However, when they arrived at the child's birthday party, they found that it had turned into a funeral, complete with a coffin. The husband immediately ordered people to remove these things. At that moment, someone announced, "The daughter of the richest man in Zhangcheng from the Su group has arrived." With the security guards clearing the way, a woman wearing an eye mask walked in. The mother-in-law urged the husband to go and make connections, to succeed in the future. The idealized love also stepped forward to ingratiate herself, extending her hand, but the woman directly pushed her aside, walked to the front of everyone, and accused the husband as the murderer, with the idealized love beside him as an accomplice. The husband stepped forward and said, "This is simply slander. If you continue like this, don't blame us for being rude." The woman removed her eye mask, and the Su family's daughter turned out to be his own wife. The mother-in-law immediately claimed that the woman must be an imposter. The husband also didn't believe it. "We've been married for so many years. How could I not know your identity? You're just an orphan." At that moment, the woman's father walked in. "I want to see who doesn't recognize me." Everyone recognized him as Mr. Su, the head of the Su group, and it turned out the woman really was the daughter. The mother-in-law immediately said, "It was all my fault before. From now on, I will never interfere in your affairs. You are my only daughter-in-law." The husband still wanted to make amends, but it was already too late. The woman suddenly lifted the memorial photo, and the husband was startled to see that it was actually his daughter. The mother-in-law and the white moonlight were also terrified. The husband still couldn't believe it, holding the daughter's memorial photo, thinking it must be a prank. "You all teamed up to deceive me." The husband shouted his daughter's name, but no one responded to him. The husband suddenly opened the coffin and saw that the person lying inside was his daughter. The mother-in-law screamed and collapsed to the ground, while the husband, in disbelief, wanted to reach out and touch her. The woman slapped him across the face. "Don't touch my child with your filthy hands. She's already dead now. Don't you want her to rest in peace?" The woman grabbed the husband's collar and questioned him about how he could leave the child alone at the swimming pool, then pushed him away. "Do you know that when I saw the child, she was completely pale, with no warmth at all? My daughter was only 6 years old. But no matter how much I cried and shouted, my daughter would never open her eyes to look at me again." At this moment, the husband finally realized his mistake, holding the woman's hand and apologizing repeatedly. The woman's father didn't want to hear his excuses and directly kicked him down. "If you know you're sorry, you should make amends to my granddaughter." He ordered his men to bring a stick. "This beating is for you being an unworthy father, entangled with other women." With one strike, the husband cried out in pain. The second strike, "You are an unworthy father, never fulfilling your responsibilities as a parent." The third strike, "You caused the death of your own daughter for the sake of others." After 3 strikes, his mouth was bloody, and the mother-in-law stepped forward, begging her to stop, saying something bad would happen. The white moonlight knelt, saying the child's death was unexpected. The woman ignored her excuses. "Do you still have the nerve to say this was an accident? As a mother, don't you know how dangerous it is to leave a child alone at the swimming pool?" The husband stated that it was all his responsibility and had nothing to do with the white moonlight. "If you want to get angry, take it out on me." The woman took the stick and obliged him. With one strike, the husband was lying on the ground. "Did we lose a worthless child? Or is he trying to make us go swimming?" The husband, crying, clutched the woman's clothes, saying, "I'll do anything you want, please, just forgive me." The woman had no interest in his apology. "When my child called, begging me to save him, where were you? If only you had looked back that day. If only you had taken someone else's child to the hospital and then returned for him, he wouldn't be lying in a coffin now." The husband frantically extended his arms like an octopus, trying to apologize. The woman didn't spare the mother-in-law either, saying, "If you had told me earlier where the child was, I could have gone to save him sooner." The mother-in-law quickly explained, "She is my own granddaughter. I never expected something like this to happen. Now you know she's your own granddaughter. Didn't you always say she was a burden and not as precious as others? Didn't you always hope something would happen to her so you could feed your eldest grandson? The woman had seen through the true nature of this family and asked her husband for a divorce. The husband knelt on the ground, holding the woman's hand, promising never to contact his white moonlight again, only begging for her forgiveness. But the woman had already given him too many chances, even at the cost of her daughter's life. From now on, I don't want this father, nor do I want this husband. The woman looked at the child lying in the coffin. Now her daughter could finally rest in peace. The film ends here, and it's called If Missing You Had a Sound. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. Looking forward to meeting you at the next intersection.